Ever since watching Amazon's The Rig, I've been desperate for a horror game set on an oil rig. Well, the Chinese Room delivered, and in this one we'll be diving into a horror game set on an oil rig, Still Wakes the Deep. First off, a massive thank you to the Chinese Room and the Guillotine Agency for sending me an early code for this game. Still Wakes the Deep is a narrative horror experience set on an oil rig off the coast of Scotland in 1975. According to the dev diaries, the developers for this game took inspiration from various pieces of UK media, including the bleak, foggy 1983 film Local Hero, also set in Scotland. There are also obvious inspirations taken from John Carpenter's 1982 horror movie The Thing. There's not much more I need to say about the game itself, so we'll just go ahead and dive in. Oh, and because this game has only recently released, I need to warn you that there'll be spoilers in this video for Still Wakes the Deep. But let's begin. It's December 1975 off the coast of Aberdeen, and Cameron McCleary, aka Kaz, is sat in his room after having received a rather heavy letter from his wife Suze. She's talking about him running away from something on the mainland, some kind of mess that he got himself into, and she's talking of leaving him. Kaz is an electrician, and he's working on Qadar Oil's Berra oil rig. Someone knocks on Kaz's door and tells him that breakfast is being served. On the way, Kaz talks to his friend, an engineer named Finley. She says that the oil rig isn't in great shape, and Qadar have basically neglected it and pipes are leaking. One worker, O'Connor's room, is basically uninhabitable. Conditions on the rig are that bad that a union representative on board, Trots, who represents the North Sea Oil Workers Union, has raised numerous safety grievances against Qadar that have all been ignored. Also, since it's near to Christmas, a lot of the workers on the rig have gone back to shore, so the rig is operating with a skeleton crew until the other workers come back. The remaining workers would entertain themselves, engaging in activities such as a darts tournament. In the canteen, Kaz speaks with various crew members such as Trots, Gibbo, O'Connor, Brody, and a young lad called Raffs, who is scheduled to go on his first dive inside the dive bell. He's extremely nervous. Kaz also speaks with someone that pretty much everyone dislikes, Adair. He is a supporter of the National Front. If you're not aware, the National Front is a far-right fascist political party in the UK. The National Front rejected being known as fascists since they took part in elections, but their beliefs and policies were rooted in nationalism, white supremacy, anti-Semitism and anti-immigration attitudes. But let's have a look at what's happening in Scotland at this time. In Scotland, the 70s were a bleak time. The economy was shrinking, unemployment was rising, and inflation was an issue too. It was made worse in 1973 when the Conservative UK government decided against stepping in to prevent one of the largest shipyards in Scotland closing down. This only added to Scotland's ever-increasing problem with unemployment. This issue ended up getting resolved, and the shipyard remained open. However, darker times were ahead. The UK government then introduced a 3-day week policy, and this was to conserve energy, specifically electric. The UK couldn't generate enough power to meet the demand, and there was an oil crisis which was affecting most of the West. And this coincided with miners' strikes as they wanted more pay. But things were about to change for the better. Oil was discovered in the North Sea, and this meant a brighter future for the UK as a whole. But this led to tensions between Scotland and the rest of the UK, as the Scottish National Party, then a fringe political movement, believed that the financial benefits from this oil wouldn't reach Scotland at all, not whilst Scotland was part of the UK. Since Scotland was not a sovereign state, they couldn't claim the oil was their own. So the SNP started the movement It's Scotland's Oil. This is something that Trots refers to here.
There's no escaping. There's going to be a dozen more rigs up here by the end of next year because they pricks in Westminster want their grubby wee hands on Scotland's oil.
Christ, not this again.
The bear is already down to the bare bones.
This campaign worked in favour of the SNP as the political party grew and won 11 seats in Parliament as opposed to their 1 in the previous election. This ultimately led to a referendum vote in 1979 on Scottish independence from the UK, but this did not pass, with 51% of Scots voting to remain to be part of the UK. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Back to 1975. Speaking with Roy, the rig's chef, who is Kaz's friend, Kaz hears the rig's foreman, Davy Rennick, calling him over the rig's intercom. He wants to speak with Kaz, and it sounds urgent. Before leaving, Kaz speaks with Roy and tells him that Suze is thinking about divorcing him. Kaz is worried that she'll actually divorce him if he goes to jail. So basically, Kaz assaulted someone called Billy Chamberlain outside a pub and put the guy in hospital after he insulted Suze. Roy had arranged a job on the rig for Kaz as an electrician in order to give him some time to lay low, Suze objected, but Kaz went anyway. Heading out onto the deck, Kaz speaks with Roper, who tells Kaz they are having some trouble with the drill, but Kaz gets to Rennick's office.
Enter!
Ah, Mr. McClary. So glad you could join me, and sorry to have got you out of bed. Shut the door and have a seat.
I'm fine standing.
Sit your arse in that chair, you fucking liability.
But
I run a tight ship. Do you understand me? A tight ship.
Technically, it's no shit.
Shut your gob, you Ned prick! I am sick to fucking bouking of you wee gobshites messing with my operation. That chef might be a mate of yours, but he does not run things around here. I do. Do you understand me?
All right, why don't you just get on with it?
Don't you answer me back! You might be the height of shite on shore, McClary, but out here, I am the fucking king. Do you understand me? You bring the police to my door, to my rig.
Look, I can sort this, right? I just need time.
Shut it, you clatty gobshite. I've got here a man who can make a more positive contribution to this operation than you.
Look, I know...
Shut it! I'm in a meeting. What? Fuck's sake, Gibbo, I don't care. We're on a schedule. It's a fucking drill. You've got a fucking drill, so drill through it. Yeah, well, Roper's a whiny old fud. He's got a problem with everything. I don't care if it feels off. Just fucking do it! Or I'll come down there myself.
Is that trouble with the missus?
You're fired. You hear me? Fired.
Come on, man. It's only a wee bit of trouble with the polish. I'm good with the lecky. I keep things running. You said it yourself.
Out! Get off my rig!
After that, Kaz needs to board the chopper and leave the rig, but approaching the helipad...
Jesus, Gregor! Gregor!
Get away from the edge! Guys! Help me! Guys! Don't let me die! Please! I don't want to die! I don't want to die!
Jesus, just hang on! Fuck! Fuck!
Kaz is fished from the water by his colleagues, but they say they found no sign of Gregor. They warm him up next to a heater. Waking up and heading outside, complaining of a headache, Kaz hears an almighty racket. Rafs, who was down in the diving bell when something went wrong with the drill, has been pulled up and is still inside the bell and sounding very distressed. Brody needs help getting Rafs out, so Kaz secures the dive bell so Brody can get him out. Brody says the drill hit an air pocket and it seems like something exploded. Brody tells Kaz to head through engineering, but needs to go underneath the rig. Using the walkways, which are crumbling and falling apart, Kaz sees the drill. Trying to process what it is that he's just seen, Kaz crosses the perilous structure and makes it inside and into engineering. He's in one of the rig's legs, leg C, and ascending, he manages to find a torch. Moving through this section, Kaz hears something that he really wishes he hadn't.
What the fuck is that?
He speaks with Finley. She says that the person making all this noise is Gibbo. Finley has seen Gibbo and she wouldn't recommend finding him. He got something on him after the explosion and tried to attack Finley. She says that in order to get back to the accommodation area, Kaz needs to go through the water tanks. Kaz spots something in a control room, a mess of remains and a fleshy substance with tendrils coming off of it. And moving on, Kaz sees Gibbo's shadow. He later hears him screaming and shouting, and reaching the water tanks, Kaz gets a glimpse of Gibbo. Yeah, he's not right at all. Kaz then finds Douglas dead. He pushes on and makes it to accommodation. Warming up by heater, Kaz answers a phone. It's O'Connor, and he's with two colleagues. He says that something's wrong in engineering and it's not safe, and then the line cuts off. There are growths on the rig now, and whatever this stuff is, it seems to be spreading. In the crew lounge, Kaz sees a bright light.
Trots? Trots, is that you? Can't hear you, man. Open the door. Trots, the door's blocked. I can't get to you. What's up, wee man? Are you hurt? Jesus Christ. Jesus, Trots! Trots!
The light then fades and everything goes quiet. In the canteen's kitchen, Kaz speaks with Roy. Roy's absolutely terrified, and he says he's going to stay there in the pantry. Kaz is going to head out onto the deck and see if there's a lifeboat available. It's not long until Kaz sees another horrific sight. When he's near the strange growths, Kaz's head starts to hurt. Outside, Kaz sees a lifeboat, but it's out of action as it has a massive hole in its underside. Kaz hears Davy Rennick telling workers that they'll be back to work shortly. He finds a usable lifeboat, but as he prepares it into the boarding position, the lines give out and the lifeboat falls into the sea. A call from Rennick sees him inform Kaz that there's a chopper on the helipad, ready to leave, and he tells Kaz to bring anyone that's alive with him. Kaz heads back through the laundry and sees Trots. He's seemingly attracted by a bright light inside a washing machine. He's in a terrible state, part of some sort of biomass, and Kaz has to sneak around him. And after a tense chase, he escapes Trots. Speaking with Roy again, he says that he won't be able to make it across the deck to the chopper. Roy's a diabetic and needs his insulin. Kaz says he'll go to the helipad and make sure Rennick doesn't leave without Roy. Outside, a thick fog is enveloping the rig. Kaz hears a groaning sound and speaks with an absolutely terrified Innes, who is being stalked by what used to be, but still kind of is, Muir. Sneaking round Muir, Kaz and Innes make it to the lift, but Innes is taken by the monster. Heading towards the helipad, Kaz overhears that Rennick wants to take off now, leaving everyone else there on the rig. He's arguing with the pilot, who says that they can't just leave everyone there. Kaz tries to get them to stay, but he's too late. The chopper takes off, but in what seems to be a struggle in the cockpit, the helicopter crashes into the rig. After being knocked out, Kaz has a flashback of a conversation he and Suze had before he left. Thinking he's losing his mind, Kaz needs to get back inside the rig. In Rennick's office, he discovers a letter from Strathclyde Police regarding the assault on Billy Chamberlain 4 months ago, and that's how Rennick found out about Kaz's misdemeanor. A phone call from Brody sees him tell Kaz to get to the radio room and call the support ship. The generators need restarting, so, you guessed it, Kaz needs to descend into engineering again. On the way, though...
Jesus fucking Christ!
After being chased by what appears to be Davy Rennick, Kaz heads outside and climbs up the chopper, which is perilously hanging. Inside, Kaz is in engineering and speaks with Finley again. After resetting the protective relay, Finley says that this hasn't restarted the generators, so they need to be restarted manually. Only problem is, there's more shrieking coming from where the generators are. Heading there, the growth overtaking the rig seems to be glowing brightly, and careful to avoid it, Kaz makes it to the generator room and sees and hears what's left of Adair. Throwing things in order to create a distraction, Kaz enters into the control room and grabs a key for the generator. Heading back out, he starts the generator and once again has to avoid Adair whilst making his way out and his way back to the protective relay. He makes it back inside the control hut and turns the power on, and Adair leaves. But Brody calls and it seems that they have a new problem. The rig is slowly sinking. Brody needs Kaz to go down to the pontoons. The pontoons are basically structures that provide buoyancy on deep-sea oil drilling platforms. They get partially flooded and submerged under the surface so that the rig isn't rocking and swaying along with the rough seas. They need to engage the tension winches, so Kaz heads to the pontoons. Making his way down leg A, being careful not to fall to his death, Kaz engages one of the tension winches. Just one more to go, the tension winch in leg B. Crossing, or swimming over to leg B, Kaz starts to hear voices. Suze's voice. Bodies are everywhere too. Kaz almost drowns as the water level begins to rise in the pontoons, but somehow he manages to make it to safety. He sees another of his friends, O'Connor. He's being assimilated into whatever this growth is and is calling out for someone named Mary. The tendrils try to grab Kaz, but he manages to get away. Making it to leg B and engaging the winch, Kaz takes the elevator back up to the top. Looking round, he sees that this thing, whatever it is taking control of the rig. He seems to be slightly awed by its beauty. Freezing cold, Kaz is now back in accommodation. Warming up by a heater, he uses the phone and speaks with Roy, who is getting worse as he needs his insulin. Kaz Kaz sees and feels an explosion in the distance and tells Roy to try to get to the cabins out on the deck. Outside, Kaz sees the growth is now completely engulfing the derrick, but he also sees oil coming from the derrick. One spark and the whole rig could blow up. As he passes close to the derrick where the first growth came from, Kaz hears more voices. Making his way across the deck, he sees and speaks with Brody. There's another issue. It's the flare stack. The flare stack is basically there to stabilize pressure and flow from a well through controlled burning. Problem is that the stack's main feed is ruptured, and this means that it's burning out. It could spread to the derrick and cause an explosion. Brody has an idea to switch the flare onto the auxiliary gas pipe, but of course, Kaz needs to go do it. Kaz needs to find the diverter valve. Heading through the processing quad, Kaz's old pal Adair shows up. Sneaking round the monstrosity, Kaz diverts the feed to the auxiliary and heads across the stack to light the auxiliary feed manually. He gets chased by Adair, and with the creature climbing the structure, Kaz launches the flare and kills Adair. But more importantly, the stack is lit. Unfortunately, the stack is collapsing and Kaz doesn't make it to the end of the stack. After being knocked out and after another flashback to an argument he had with Suze, Kaz comes to. Finding himself on the underside of the rig, Kaz makes his way inside and on the way sees the state of the drill. He continues to hear Suze's voice, terrified of what this stuff is doing to him. He also sees the remnants of rafts in the dive bell, and this stuff had affected him too. In engineering again, Kaz speaks with a very surprised Finley and Brody, who both thought for sure that Kaz was dead. Anyway, there's a new plan. Brody will dive down and release the tension cable so they can float the rig, and hopefully this will balance the rig out. Kaz and Finley need to go to marine control. They hear Roy over the intercom. He's in even worse shape now. He made it to the cabin on the roof of accommodation. Kaz wants to go and help Roy, but Brody insists that he needs them in marine control. Kaz heads towards accommodation in order to find Roy's insulin, but he needs to do some more swimming. Having a leisurely swim through the ruins of the engineering sections, Kaz ends up back in accommodation. In what was the crew lounge, well, the side of it is now completely gone. Using the vents moving around the corpses of his former colleagues, he has to avoid his friend Trots, who chases Kaz through the vents. Kaz finds Roy's insulin in his room, and upon leaving, Trots is eventually killed by falling debris. Now to head outside to the cabin and to help Roy. The growth, whatever it is now even bigger. Kaz enters the cabin and finds Roy there. Unfortunately, he's fallen unconscious and has passed away. After mourning his friend, he speaks with Finley on the phone. She tells Kaz that she couldn't get to marine control, so Kaz needs to get there from where he is. Crossing more perilous structures that are falling apart, Kaz makes it into marine control and finds a colleague there, fighting to retain his sanity. It's the drilling foreman Roper, who Kaz had spoke with only hours earlier. Taking the key off Roper, he appears to be trying to help Kaz and tells him to keep Rennick away. Kaz needs to flood the forward pontoon, but is concerned that this action could cause oil and gas to be pushed up to the deck, and is concerned that Brody is still down there. But Finley told Kaz that Brody would be out of there by now. Kaz then floods the forward pontoon to the brim, and this actually works as the rig levels out. Finley tells Kaz to meet her and Brody in drill ops. Leaving, whatever it is that has engulfed Roper tries to attack Kaz, but he leaves the area. Kaz is still hearing Suze's voice louder than ever now. Water rushes into where Kaz is and he's carried down the hallways but surfaces. He hears loud banging noises, and the place continues to flood with water. He continues to see grotesque abominations that used to be his friends. Kaz is eventually chased by Davy Rennick, but underwater, Rennick drowns and Kaz is able to escape. Heading into drill ops, he finds Finley there, but no Brody.
What's going on? Who are you talking to?
Kaz, you made it.
Brody, what's wrong with Finley? She's freaked out here.
Listen, Kaz, there's no much time. There's oil and gas getting in here. When it fills, it will be headed right up the drill pipe.
What are you on about?
I'm still in the pontoons. I've only got a couple of minutes. I can't stop it. The rig's a time bomb now. You understand? One spark and... You need to find a way off.
Just get back up here and we'll work it out, yeah?
I can't do that.
What?
I can't get back up.
Wait, no, wait.
I'm sorry.
Wait, listen.
You're on your own now.
I'll come to you. All right?
No, you won't. You wouldn't even get halfway to me. The leg's flooded and the gas, it's no possible.
You got your dive gear?
Aye, but
So you can use that?
it's oil, Kaz. There's nothing to be done.
Fucking say that.
I knew the risk when I came down here.
Fuck. Can I lose you as well?
Listen, I'm alright, Kaz. I'm already back on Sky. You've never seen water like that, Kaz. Clear. Peaceful. You just let go and everything's fine.
Aye. That sounds beautiful.
You go one day. Alright?
Oh, fuck that. I'm never swimming again after this.
Kaz, you and Finlay, you can do this, alright? I'm sure she wouldn't do something so stupid.
Rory, you there?
Kaz?
What's stupid? Talk to me.
It's getting higher.
Alright, I'm here, Roddy. I'm not going anywhere. Alright, I'm here. Roddy. Oh, fuck. Roddy. Jesus. How's this happening? What do we do now, Finlay?
Doesn't fucking matter.
He's dead and you don't think that matters.
He was always gonna die. All of them. Always. We see that. We've been fucking about with the lecky and pontoons. And we thought, oh, open hell. Watching our pals turn into monsters. Never once. Never fucking once have we tried to do what needed to be done.
Can't do. Alright, what do you mean?
I'm ending this. Fucking now.
Finlay. No. Come back. Finlay!
Finlay runs off with a lighter, sensing that they only have one option left: to destroy the rig and the thing on it. Chasing her across the rig, Kaz sees that Finlay has been crushed by a falling beam. Kaz understands what he needs to do. He takes the lighter and walks into the derrick. He sees more of the growths. It appears to be a living, breathing entity with a heartbeat. Kaz then drops the lighter into the depths. As expected, the flames quickly rise up the drill pipe and the rig blows up. Of all the people of the Bear-a-D, no one survived. Kaz then moves towards a light, reminiscing about how he met Suze, how they fell in love and got married. After this, Kaz wakes up in what I'd assume to be some kind of afterlife, an in-between, purgatory. He tells Suze to kiss his kids goodbye for him, then he leaves, passing on. The game then ends with Suze reading out a letter that she'd written for Kaz, in stark contrast to the angry letter at the start of the game. This one talks of her love for him and how she wants to make their relationship work. Alright, so a pretty basic but very cool story. But what is this thing on the rig? Alright, so the short answer is, who knows? It's never actually explained in the game, but I don't mind that. As we saw when Kaz was on his way up to Rennick's office, they were having an issue with the drill. Well, not the drill, they'd hit something. As seen with the conversation Rennick was having, he informed the drill team to punch through whatever it was. Bad idea, because it quickly came up the drill pipe and started growing all over the rig. It obviously lived under the seabed. Now, I'm not sure how it managed to breach the dive bell with rafts inside it, but he was affected pretty early on. The growth, or the entity itself, seems to be getting into people's heads. These victims retain part of their personality. Trotz was still grumbling about the state of the rig, Adair was still an asshole, and Gibbo didn't want people to look at him, indicating a fear or a self-consciousness maybe. Touching it infects the person, and going near it causes one to have strong and particularly vivid hallucinations and visions of their life. One particular hallucination saw Kaz being tormented by either a memory or a made-up scenario of hearing Suze calling out for their missing daughters. Another thing is that it seems to be some sort of cosmic entity. It appears to be living and breathing too, judging by the heartbeat. It's probably best described as an otherworldly biomass, absorbing other human biomatter into it. And finally, it could be some sort of hive mind. Maybe because Rennick touched the stuff, the entity tried to stop them from leaving in the chopper, so it made Rennick freak out in the chopper, causing it to crash. It could also be producing spores, judging from this shot here, when Kaz is looking up into the legs. Other than that, I'm not sure what the entity could be, although that's kind of the beauty of the mystery. The oil rig workers drilled through it, it took over, transformed them into monsters, and there's no one alive to tell the tale. But it makes you think, what happens when someone comes and investigates? Or will the oil rig be at the bottom of the North Sea by then? And how will this change the future of oil, given that underneath the sea there's this entity just living there? Let me know what you think. But that's it for this video. Decent story, amazing atmosphere, great graphics, and top-notch voice acting made this a really enjoyable 5 or 6 hours. If you enjoyed this video, then please leave a like on it and subscribe if you aren't already. But for now, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.